guys, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to another episode of Sister, the podcast for spiritual baddies. We're your hosts, Elle and Maya. Unfortunately, this is our last episode for the season, but we couldn't go without a bang. So, Elle, tell us what this episode's about.
Today we're going to be talking about consciously sourcing metaphysical and witchcraft items.
Oof, that's a hard hitter.
This is
And
something, as a metaphysical shop owner, I feel very passionately about.
And honestly, some of this we did talk about in previous episodes, but there's some new content that I think we should be focusing on here, such as the crystal industry. So, Elle, tell us about the crystal industry since you own a crystal shop and all.
So, the crystal industry, there are so many issues in the crystal industry. Basically, anything you could expect. Child labor is a huge one, not being paid fair wages, not doing restorative work on the mines, so many things. There is also the term that we like to use called what is considered a blood crystal. There are certain countries I don't deal with because of ongoing wars and conflicts in them and people getting murdered in the mining industry just doing their jobs because of said wars and conflicts. So there is a lot of issues within the crystal industry. I think we could do a whole episode on that itself, but we're just going to kind of touch on those things first. So, the whole child labor and people not being paid a fair wage. So, one of the things you have to look into whenever you are someone who sells crystals is what kind of mining operation is this? Is this a commercial mining operation? So, as a lot of people know, some of the best fluorites come out of China. What is China very well known for? Child
Mass
labor.
production and mass production.
Yeah. So, child labor is a very big issue there. So, whenever you are sourcing fluorite specifically, you are going to have a really big problem with trying to figure out which kind of mine is best to go with, what company you should be going with, and if you should be using, a bigger mining commercialized company, or if you should be trying to find smaller mining operations that are owned by families, which what I mainly work with for the most part, besides for like things like Moldavite, because obviously family owned mining operations don't exist for that, is family owned mining operations. That is what I have focused on. That is the kind of thing that I have started building from the ground up with my business. And there's a lot less of an ethical problem whenever it comes to things like that because the entire family is usually involved in this process, right? Like, there are people in the family who are mining the crystals. There are people in the family who are polishing and carving the crystals. And there are people in the family who are in charge of like doing the social media and selling the crystals from wherever they're at all across the globe, right? So that is usually the kind of mining operations I try to deal with. Personally, I think it's more ethical. You know that that money is going directly to the source of the people who are putting in the labor. Um, and it's not one of those things where there is a bigger corporation looming over these people and they're getting paid cents on the dollar that you're paying. They may, like their wage is not going to be that much. And you'll see a lot of crystal wholesale pages on places like Facebook and stuff that come out of China. And I know there are people who purchase off of those wholesale pages. I'm on some of them just to get ideas and ask people that I work with if they could carve this shape XYZ because they have a lot of really cool things that come out of China. But it's really a big question of, is it ethical to be buying stuff from a giant wholesale company out of China where you don't know where the minerals are coming from? You don't know where the materials were sourced from originally. That's one of my big things too, is I want to be able to tell my customers where this came from. And then also, are the people getting paid a fair wage? I don't know if you've seen the TikToks where they have like the giant bowl thing that's like shaking and people order like scoops. And Have you seen how they treat some of the girls on there that do the scoops? Like,
I haven't watched long enough, but I can definitely tell that this is all, like, for show and that these people are not making enough to be doing all that.
I was on a live one time where one of them asked to go to the bathroom. And once again, I'm a crystal seller. I just like to see what's going on in the crystal industry as a whole. And she had asked to go to the bathroom and they told her no. And it took people in the comments no longer commenting about anything else but letting her go to the bathroom for them to give her a break.
Jesus Christ.
She was gone maybe a minute and 30 seconds. That was it. And these lives are like constantly going on these pages. Like they'll switch
Oh,
people
yeah.
out, but they never stop. It's like a 24-hour thing, a 24-hour operation. So there's people on there like 2 a.m. our time, which I know China is like completely different time zone, but it's 24-hour nonstop doing those things. So that's something else you kind of have to look at with like pages like that too, is those people's health and well-being to try and sell these crystals is not being taken into account either.
I know you can go a lot more on that entire topic, but let's segue into herbs that are sacred to the indigenous and are being commercialized. We already mentioned this, but as a refresher, top three are white sage, palo santo, and smudging. So let's talk a little more about that.
Yeah, so once again, commercialization. That is the name of the game of capitalism, right? And that is one of those things where it's like you see White Sage and Palo Santo and Five Below. Like we talked about in our closed practices episode, it's everywhere now. But if you walk into a metaphysical shop and the people are not indigenous and or don't look indigenous. I guess you shouldn't assume because I do have Native American roots, but they don't look indigenous. You should always question where they're getting that from. 100% always question it because it's different if they know a local person who is growing it and wants to sell it, right? Like the same thing goes with dream catchers. Like if you know an indigenous person that wants to sell it in your shop, that is totally different than you buying it wholesale from AliExpress or whatever
It's like,
company you find on Fair that's a
right.
commercialized metaphysical goods place. So that's another thing is it really matters where it comes from. And also you don't need white sage or palo santo and you don't need to be smudging if you're not a part of those cultures. So it really should
Right.
be sold in everyday metaphysical shops that are meant for everyone anyways.
Right, exactly. Like, if you're not a part of the communities in which these are used, there's no reason that you need to be doing them or using them. There are so many other ways you can be using many different items you can use to cleanse your space that don't have to do with these three, such as incense.
Yeah, and I always say I'm like my biggest metaphysical shop red flag is if I walk in and the first things I'm seeing is white sage and palo santo, like or
Walk out,
smudging feathers, that is
walk out.
immediate red flag. Like,
Just don't even shop there.
yeah. So that's another big one that is just like red flags. You have to be consciously sourcing those things if you're getting them in, and you also shouldn't be buying them if you aren't a part of the people that use them.
Exactly. Next are tarot and oracle decks coming from someone who works with publishing companies the authors work with, and how to tell a fake deck apart from the real one.
Yeah, so this is something I had to learn because I was not like privy to this knowledge before starting to get tarot decks and oracle decks in. So I use three different publishing companies that I source my decks from that are the publishing companies the artists and authors of the decks use. And I am limited in what decks I can get from those companies, but I know that they are trustworthy in who those artists publish through. A lot of these wholesale crystal pages on Facebook or wherever. I'm saying Facebook because that's where a lot of the community is for things like this for buying. They will, especially out of China, you'll see them post tarot decks and it'll say like $5 for tarot decks. I ordered some at one point just to see if they were real because I couldn't tell from the pictures. I really couldn't. So I had ordered a couple decks from them and I ordered a couple tapestries because tapestries is another thing with this too that you have to watch out for. And all of it was fakes. And the way I could tell with the tarot and oracle decks was whenever they came, the packages were smaller than the packaging I had seen in stores for those decks. And you open it up, there's no guidebook. There's a QR code on the side of the box that takes you to a PDF file of the guidebook, which has clearly been stolen and put on the side of that box. So that is one of the biggest tells on how a deck is a fake. One, you've seen it other places and it's smaller. Now, granted, there are some decks that are made in a pocket size. One of those specifically is the Crow Tarot. I sell both the full size and the pocket size in my store of it because people love it so much. Um, so that is a possibility, but the sizing is just off. And all of the decks, no matter which one it is, will all be the exact same size, all exact same size. And you know, with packaging and boxes, that no deck looks exactly alike unless it's from like the same publisher and it's the same artist. Like sometimes they'll make different versions of decks. So
Right,
that's one thing. And then the tapestries, a lot of art is stolen, which that's not news to anyone. Big clothing companies steal things from smaller artists all the time. But as far as metaphysical spaces go, tarot and oracle decks are a big thing where art is stolen, and so are tapestries. So you're gonna know if a tapestry is authentic, one, by where you're sourcing it from. Is it a tapestry printing company that artists use? You do your research on that first. And two, the size of it. There are typical sizes that tapestries come in, and I can't tell you them off the top of my head, but you get kind of accustomed to those typical sizings whenever you own a metaphysical store. You know, if you're gonna have like the medium size, there's usually like a smaller one, a medium one, and a large one, right? And those are like the three sizes that you might order in. So if the tapestry comes in and it's like a 10 by 20-inch tapestry, it's not the real tapestry, like, and it's ridiculous, like, thinking about it because it's like, why would anyone want something that small? Like, even the small tapestries that I have are much bigger than that.
right. Yeah. Um, I can definitely tell you based on the tarot decks that I've been given versus what I've bought, all of them come with like some kind of hardcover box. And in the box are obviously the tarot cards and then the guidebook. And I can show you an example of a deck that I have that I bought, such as the Modern Witch tarot deck by Lisa Sturl. As you can see, most of them come with like either a book-like packaging. This one comes in a box and the cards are here, and this is the little book. So now that I think about it, I might have bought in a deck that's not actually the real deck, but I was naive at the time and I really just wanted this deck. Um, one thing I will also say is that you also can tell usually by pricing because most tarot decks have a certain range in which they are priced. So if you see it for like half the price, it's probably not real.
Yeah, that's another big thing is pricing. Like,
Yeah,
for example, the tarot deck that I always use for our episodes is the Tattoo Tarot. It is a huge box, right? Like,
right,
ginormous box. And it actually comes with a like deck mat that you can use for readings. It has a spread that was specifically done by this artist. And then it comes with a full guidebook, like backwards. Like, do you
right,
see how thick that thing is and how big it is? Like, it's very easy to spot a fake if you know what you're looking for.
right. I will say sometimes I've seen tarot and oracle decks at TJ Maxx because I often shop at TJ Maxx. However, this is the real one because of the covering. I will say that it was a discounted price from the original version that I've seen on Amazon, but I know it's a real deal because it has the book, it has the tarot cards, and it has the hardcover. And I think 90% of, if not all, tarot decks and oracle decks come in this kind of packaging because obviously you're going to be using this. You want to take care of it and protect it. So
Yeah,
you're
I
going to want to,
have one deck. It's the Golden Dawn Tarot, I think is what it's called, that is in a, like, flimsier box, but that's the only one I have, and it is the real deck, it's just it was made a very long time ago, and they have never
right.
updated the packaging since.
Yeah,
Um, so that's one thing that, like, there are some that are real, but it's just the deck is so old, like, if you go and look, that deck I don't think has been updated since, like, 1960 something.
exactly. Exactly. So that's a little on tarot decks and oracle decks. The last thing is herbs. So this is something that I think is really easy to try and get like naturally sourced and uh, something you could even grow at home if you have the means and space to do so. It's herbs. So you can honestly grow your own herbs, or you can source them from local farmers or farming co-ops near you. So in my house, I rent, well, my mom rents, and in our apartment building, in the front we have like a garden per se. And in the garden grows mint. And this mint has been there as long as I lived here. So we never buy mint because we have it right in our front yard. There's like no reason to be buying mint when we have fresh organic mint that has not like even touched any form of pesticide. Like it's like top tier mint. You can grow mint, you can grow rosemary. There's I'm sure a few others that you can grow that you can commonly use that are not from a close practice. Let's note that. Um, and you can use these herbs for spiritual baths, make tea even, or even for your recipes that you consume in your body. Um, it's really not that hard. I mean, obviously, your everyday herbs at the supermarket will do if you don't find a place where you can buy them like locally grown or or if you can't grow them. But I mean, if you want to really up your game, try that.
Yeah, and that's another thing too with owning a metaphysical shop. Like I sell herbs, right? I sell herbs specifically for spells. I also sell spell kits that have herbs in them. But I work with two different farming co-ops to get everything I need. So the one farming co-op is actually from here in Pennsylvania that I work with, and then the other one is from Virginia. And I actually met those people at the Virginia Renaissance Fair. So I know the people that I'm working with, and I know the farmers, and I know how they grow their stuff, and I can order it online from them. I don't have to do like any hoops or anything like that. And I know it's all being sourced from what is considered semi-local business, right? It's not necessarily like super local to me, but I'm still supporting local or smaller farmers and things like that. And a lot of people will who own metaphysical shops will buy these giant wholesale bags of herbs that come from who knows where, you don't know because it's off of a wholesale website. And not to say that there aren't any good bulk apothecary websites out there, there are. That's something that you can do some research on and look into. But especially if you see like on Amazon, like the bulk herbs, don't do it. Don't do it. There are some farming co-ops that have items listed on Amazon, so definitely look into who the people are that are selling it. Um, that, if you need to get it in a pinch, you could, but definitely be trying to support your local farmers, farming co-ops, or growing it yourself. And if you go into a metaphysical shop, and this goes for everything we've talked about, question where things are sourced from. I'm never going to be upset by a customer that comes in and is like, "Hey, where's your lapis lazuli come from?" Because I don't buy lapis that's from Afghanistan. I'm like, "Cool, I don't buy lapis that's from Afghanistan either." Always question things. And this also kind of comes back to, our last episode of decolonizing, critical thinking and questioning. You don't have to take everything at face value whenever you walk into someone's store. If they have something to hide, they're going to be offended. They're going to be upset. They're going to be like, why are you questioning me on this? But if there's someone like me who is trying to run an ethically and consciously sourced business, they're going to be happy to tell you. And I will also say my employees and the people that I do have help me out from time to time, like my mom and then also my friend Jake, he and my mom are both very knowledgeable on where everything comes from. Like, there is never a time where someone walks in the store they wouldn't be able to either know or look in a PowerPoint that I made for them and immediately find where something came from to be able to tell a customer.
And that's important because if you don't know something, it's always good to ask. And if they don't know, it's always good to use your resource, the friendly internet. So, with that all being said, let's take it on over to our astrology almanac, the last one for the season. Astrology almanac with L.
So there isn't much going on this week until the 9th when Mercury re-enters Virgo after its brief time in Virgo during Mercury retrograde. Something can come full circle soon because of this. You can have a better eye for details and can get work done. Then on the 11th, we have the first quarter moon in Sagittarius. You can make adjustments in big ways over the next week. Big ideas can help you find ways to make changes that open up your life.
Beautiful. Love that for us. Now, to close off the show,
I almost dropped them.
the last episode of the season. I'm so dramatic, I really am. But tarot time, tarot time. Here we are for tarot time.
What's the collective need to know?
Spirit is doing it again.
No, I am
Next
not going to
season,
be here till next week, Spirit, reading these cards.
next week, next season, we'll hopefully have an actual jingle for both of these. We have a few
Yes.
ideas in the works, but
No.
Spirit is telling us,
Oh.
oh, that doesn't sound
No.
good.
Want to know what card it is?
Um, not really, but you're gonna tell us anyway, so.
It is the Three of Swords.
Oh, I thought it was the death card.
No, I like the Death card.
The death card in reverse is usually the problem.
Yeah. But the Three of Swords is a time of heartbreak, a time of sadness, time of despair. Maybe it's because the season of the podcast is over.
It probably is.
But this is definitely a time to, allow yourself to feel those feelings and those emotions, to not, I don't want to say let yourself sulk, but like allow yourself to feel what you need to feel before being forced to move past it. Give yourself the time and space to feel those feelings and emotions. And then remember who you are, get back up on the
Period.
dang horse, and get her going again.
Remember, you're a baddie and you listen to a spiritual podcast made for baddies.
Yeah, exactly. Get back up on the dang horse
So
and
yeah,
slay.
you're gonna slay the day. It may not be today, but it will be someday. A little wise words from the wise, words
Spirit.
of wisdom. Well, that is all for this episode and this season. But don't fret, we'll be back soon with more fun and more hard hitting topics and everything in between, and some boobies and some of us just messing up words half the time.
And don't worry, this season will not be a long hiatus in between them, unlike
Oh,
last.
absolutely not. When do you think you can expect our season 3, Elle?
I would say probably beginning of October if I had to guess.
Ooh, spooky season, my favorite. We love spooky season around here.
maybe a nice little 3-week break and then we pop right back into her.
Yeah. We never know. We got a lot planned, so we need some time to get those plans into action, of
It's
course.
also only the end of July right now when we're recording this, so, like,
Right.
we still gotta figure out all the episodes for next season.
All the things, all the details, and everything in between. But needless to say, we hope you enjoyed this season. Don't worry, because we're going to be coming back next season with some really hard hitters, some really fun topics next
Bye,
season.
guys.
Bye, guys. Take care. Don't miss us too much. We'll be back soon. Mwah.